You are now live. So it's been a minute since I've checked in via the IG, so I thought I would take a second and connect and hopefully be able to share some thoughts as well as find out what else is happening out there in the world. And of course, most of the people that follow me here or vice versa happen to be precious metal enthusiasts. And so, of course, it's always good to be able to see people share their artwork or whatnot in the precious metal space because everything on the mainstream media happens to be about the digital euphoria of the digital adoption that's underway and how everybody in their parent company is jumping on board. And I got all types of stories that I want to talk about that I'll probably discuss later on in the live in the RT live talk. But I just figure see if anybody checks in with me and to find out what's happening around the country, man. A lot of things happening, and of course we're only being told one angle of everything. And also, for those that may not be familiar with the RTD Discord page, I want to extend an invitation to those in the stacking community as well as those that perhaps are even in the digital asset space. It's always good to stay plugged in and learn about what's going on. And so um, in the description or the bio of the Rethinking Dollar page, there's a little tab where you can go and join the Discord page. Juan, how you guys doing, man? Appreciate you guys for joining the chat. It's been a while since I've checked in via chat wise, so I thought I would connect and find out what's happening in this social sphere. JP Meadows, how you doing, my friend? Doing some good work out there, helping people get their weight up, which has never been more important than it is right now, I believe. Because I've never thought, well, I did think, but I never thought it happened so soon that we would hear so much hype around the digital euphoria to where every institution now is talking about digital assets. And to this day, people still think I'm crazy for thinking that this is a big setup and it's all a chosen pathway that was predetermined well before we got to Bitcoin. But that's just me. I could be crazy, but let me know. Anyway, how's everybody doing out there? So we got Dale. How you doing, man? And as always, the goal is to be able to try to provide, an avenue for more people to share what's on their mind. And so that's the whole point of the RTD Live Talk, because we have a lot of well-informed, very smart and educated people with just no way of being able to share their angles and share their expertise. So that's the point of the whole RTD Live Talk. So that's why I want to make sure I check in beforehand. Out. But let me see, it said I pause for a minute. And says Mike, our Dominican internet isn't allowing this live to play too well. Dominican, for real, how you do? How's life down in that neck of the woods, man? I'm even having some issues on my side with the internet on my side, so not surprising. But what's going on, man? Dale, what's happening down in your neck of the woods, man? So assuming you're in the Dominican Republic itself, or what? Let me know. I'm curious to find out what's happening. And that's another thing. Of course, I can go off the cuff, so that's why I want to open it up to where people can, either ask questions or share thoughts, and I can chime in, and vice versa. And so it says we moved here 5 years ago, prepping for what comes. All right. So of course, I followed. There's a couple of YouTubers out there, travel vloggers that I followed that talked about life. This is all pre-COVID, of course. So I don't know how it's really impacted the island, because I know travel restrictions, I think, kicked in relatively late. And of course, the CDC requires everyone to test coming in and coming out now. So I'm sure that definitely impacts tourism. It says same here in the Bay, been having power outages. RD, really? So in the Bay, as in, California Bay. And if that is the case, RD, let me know what's that all about from what you're hearing, and is it something that definitely to be of concern, because you're losing power like that. But what's the reason? And if it is California, I was reading some reports about the West Coast possibly this upcoming summer, because of the drought, because of the lack of. Let me see here. I got a voicemail real quick. Let me see, because I was actually going to connect. Let me see here. I sent you a voice message. Let me see here. Let me see here. It says, same here in the Bay, been having power outages. Yeah, we haven't traveled a lot since COVID, but got land and are prepping to be sustainable. That's what it's about, man. That's love. That's love. Okay, we are right outside Oakland. That's why we moved out here, because people are used to power outages. Um, so that's why you moved out here, because people are used to power outages. Really? Elaborate on that for me. And then also, let me give me 1 second here. I was looking to connect with a fellow content creator who shared some interesting thoughts on his hypothesis to Dominican Republic. Okay, so Dale, with that being the case, out in the Dominican Republic, assuming if you're out and about in your own little land, what's the infrastructure like as far as having power? Are you off the grid completely, or what type of things you got going on in your neck of the woods? And then let me give me 1 second. Let me listen to this. Let me try to listen to this. Maybe not. Okay, so I was trying to connect with let me see. Trying to connect with one of the guys in the community. He shared some interesting thoughts that I wanted to bring to the forefront, because it's a whole other angle that a lot of people are not talking about, and it seems more likely to occur than the silver squeeze, because the silver squeeze, it's off topic, whatever, but it's off topic. But the silver squeeze is more hype than anything else on the surface, because the silver game is too thoroughly manipulated to where it's not going to work, I don't think. Anyway, these scenarios, if I'm not saying that incorrectly. How you doing, my friend? Trotter Jr., how you guys doing? Just talking with Mr. Dale here about life in the Dominican Republic and living on his own land or whatnot down there, and just sharing a little bit of what's happening in his neck of the woods. But it's been a minute since I checked in, and weather's turning, so I figure it's time to try to connect with more of the community, see what's going on. And let me see what I'm going to do. I'm actually looking, let me see. So sent a little invite, looking to connect. So Dale says, plus solar power isn't as expensive out here. Be getting our house prepped for 5G. Okay, so you're utilizing a 5G network for your internet connection, or what's that like? Because I've shared my 2 cents on the whole 5G movement. Reckless Metals, how you doing, my friend? Michigan Possible, what's going down? I've shared my 2 cents on the whole 5G movement, and how it's no coincidence as well, along with this current health situation, that all that stuff is popping up, and it's the infrastructure for a surveillance state. I mean, and it's unfortunate people can't see that just drive along your freeway. You'll see cameras, closed caption cameras every, quarter of a mile along with the 5G tower. What are they looking for? What's changed over the last year, apart from the fact that there's a need now to keep an eye on every single highway across the country, which will limit travel, which will keep people from being able to roam freely. I can go down a whole rabbit hole as to why that is, but I don't want to scare anybody. But Dale, curious on the 5G situation. Let me know what that's looking like, because I'm assuming it's all over the island, and it's unfortunate that every developed nation is getting a ramp up in 5G. Why is that? And then who's on the back end of all that? What countries are on the back end? And of course, keeping in mind that a year ago or 2 years ago, we had the Huawei whole fiasco, where the vice president, the young lady, one of the heirs to the throne of Huawei, was held captive in Canada because of the 5G narrative that we were told is a part of they were saying that they have backdoor in their products. They have backdoors, but that they refuse to give the U.S. access to it, is why the U.S. had a problem with it. So that's why Huawei is not allowed to operate inside the U.S. from what we're told. So Anyway, I'm going on a whole rabbit hole with that. I'm sure you guys are here for that. Christy 24, what's going on with you? So my whole point in checking in was to get a sense of what's going on in the streets. What are you guys seeing? What's anything unusual, anything that's worth bringing to the forefront? Because of course, if you don't pay attention, an entire new world is being constructed around you. And then if you do pay attention, it's always good to be able to try to put the pieces of the puzzle together and share it with other people in hopes of more people beginning to wake up and realize that times are moving a lot faster than we could ever imagine. Reckless Metals. If Reckless Metals, if you're still on here, I'm curious to see some of your silver pieces. I want to try to connect with more individuals that are trying to help others get their weight up, because I think ultimately that is, a good way to play offense and defense during a monetary reset, because our lives are going to be forced to go digital, and being able to hold something tangible and real in the form of a or a real tangible token will definitely serve you well in the future. Anyway, I'm rambling too much. Throw out some topics, man. What do you guys have in your mind? What are you keeping an eye on? What excites you? What concerns you? Let me know. For those that are still hanging out, the goal is to get a chance to see what's going on in your neck of the woods. You sent everything on a live video. Yeah, so I was trying to connect with a guy named John Perez. So hopefully John can join me. But in the meantime, I was watching a video from John, who's a fellow, community member, and he mentioned a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. So I was going to have him come on to elaborate on it, because in talking with him, it triggered some thoughts in my mind. And the primary thought was how this week, May 1st, is supposed to be the big silver squeeze push. And I don't really think it's going to do much, but it is a good thing, because I've been studying the history books a little bit, and a lot of this silver squeeze momentum and lingo, it's once again it's we the people versus the establishment, those that are trying to control the narrative of this reset. And it reminds me a lot about the free silver movement, which took place back right after the crime of 73. And so I've been reading some history books, just up and continue to study that whole time period there, because as a result of that, the people lost. We the people lost, because here we are 130 something years later, and people don't even know the difference between currency and money. So very sad times. But yet, because of the lack of monetary literacy, our government has been able to do this to our nation, to where it's a little bit too late to turn back. RTD, let me see here. I see that it says, with the Great Reset here, are you interested in the XRP at all? And even if we do come up off it, what's going to happen when the Great Reset is full blown here? RTD, great question, man. So I personally, I'm not a fan of XRP, because when I first came across the cryptocurrency digital asset space many years ago, XRP was a newer project, and at that time nobody really knew that it was for the banks by the banks, but it was a part of, it's turned into the primary catalyst for the introduction of CBDCs, because of the team of individuals, which includes Vitalik Buterin, the Ethereum creator, McCabe from Stellar, who also created XRP. All those individuals, they're all in the know as to what's going on, because a lot of the funding, I believe, came from venture capitalists, which happen to be subsidiaries of certain government entities that, we don't need to say those entities here. But so long story short, I'm not a fan of XRP. And of course, a lot of people you can take advantage of it, but it's you taking advantage of it to your own demise. It's going to go to the moon. How can it not go to the moon when the governments around the world have weaponized their currencies? So as a reflection of a dying currency, anything that is semi-scarce, semi-valuable, and has monetary properties will rise, unfortunately, except gold and silver at this current time. But I want to get to gold and silver and how the system is going to break as a result of when everything comes full-blown circle. But XRP is designed to lead us down to the digital asset space. That's what I'm talking about, is digital euphoria. I've always been a skeptic. I've always been aware of it. I've always dipped and dabbled in it. But I don't preach it and tell people to go get your digits up. Don't get your digital assets up. But I got disconnected for a second. But other than that, XRP, I'm not a fan of it. I wouldn't tell people to go get it. Unfortunately, people are more enticed with profiting off this transition than they are realizing that they are cutting off their own lifeline. The more that XRP does well, the more the digital assets do well, the easier it will be for the central bankers at the end of the day to come in and clamp down on the digital asset space. Therefore, putting people in a very tight spot, because people think they're going to be able to live comfortably in a digital world. It won't happen, because this device I'm using here is a surveillance camera. Your internet service is a surveillance tool. Your computer, every aspect of your life is being watched right now. So you think your private keys are really safe? Okay, sure. That's just me. I can go on forever. So when everything is full blown, the greatest threat and the biggest, the most important digital asset on the surface is Bitcoin. And of course, where's all the hash power being generated from? China. So it's quite simple. It's quite obvious to me. I could be 100% wrong, but I feel more comfortable going down this rabbit hole than thinking that Bitcoin is going to disrupt governments and governments are going to convert to Bitcoin, and therefore we're going to live happily ever after as Bitcoin millionaires or something. I don't think so. So my personal opinion is that once the de-dollarization process is complete, i.e. Russia and China, they've accumulated as much weight as they want, then at that point, that gives them time to roll up their CBDCs. Every nation on the planet will have to do business with China, utilizing the digital yuan through Alibaba, Jack Ma. A new article came out today that Jack Ma is helping push the CBDC digital yuan. So, long story short, when China's ready to pull the plug, they're going to cut off all their miners in China, which is 60% of the hash power. It's going to cause a major market drop. And then China will regulate it and say that every country that does business with us here as a manufacturing hub of the planet, you're going to have to pass some type of regulations, outlawing, criminalizing or something, cryptocurrencies and bitcoins. There you go, checkmate. Financial institutions will be forced to get out. And then, of course, if there's no adoption, if there's no institutional funds and institutional demand for Bitcoin in particular, I don't really see that being something that people are going to still have confidence in. But proof-of-stake coins, privacy coins will end up being the money of the people because they don't operate off proof of work. It's a lot different format. That's just my little rant. It says, they are even mentioned at the World Economic Forum in Davos. So that's just more to be concerned with. When you think about what's going on, everything is interconnected and everything is pre-planned. Like nothing we're experiencing now is by accident. Nothing we're experiencing now is just something that just happened to come about as a result of a mysterious illness out of a wet lab in the Wuhan province. And it's unfortunate people don't see it that way, but everything is being strategically planned down to the very crises itself, i.e. the primary crisis happens to be the hiring crisis, that government over-subsidizing the people, incentivizing majority of the service sector to not even want to exchange their time for money anymore. And so what happens, I think, is in September when the funds cut off. Will they cut the funds off, i.e. the pandemic unemployment and other stuff out there? And if they do, then what? Because between now and September, all of the service sector, fast food, manufacturing companies, as a result of not having enough hands on deck now, they're going to be forced to automate. They're going to be forced to go out and hire robots and use algorithms and stuff like that. And, so ultimately, there will not be many jobs to go back to once the robots come into play, which will be forced into operation. So McDonald's is forced right now to put robots behind the scene with 1 or 2 people behind the scene because they can say that we tried, but nobody wanted to work. It's a setup, man. Wish more people would wake up and realize this problem, reaction, solution. They play this almost perfectly. Yeah, man, that's true. Faithful heart of the home care. Thanks for the rant. Just madness. I appreciate you for the love. Yeah, man, I just wanted to check in. I was trying to connect with John Perez because I wanted him to elaborate on some thoughts. So what I'll end up doing is probably trying to connect with him again. But I'll end it on this note here, because this week is the Silver Squeeze, part 2, and we got led by some of the silver people in the space, and so the most the biggest benefit to the silver squeeze movement is that it's allowing people who were unaware of the role of silver to come into the space, to actually get physical. Putting pressure on small mom and pop dealers is all fine and good, but you got to think about it. A lot of the silver being taken out is not being brought back in, so therefore there's going to be a lot of, possibly sometime soon, a lot of coin dealers having some issues, because a lot of people, out of concern of not getting the right amount of paper in return, or not wanting paper in return for their metals, they will not be bringing metals back in. So what's going to happen pretty soon is there's going to be a actual barter system / metals market where people, so more than likely most people will not want to get back out of silver into paper. So there's going to come about a lot of opportunity for people to use silver directly in trade, or there's going to be some type of digital connection. And I think, David Morgan, he has a cryptocurrency backed type of situation with silver, which I personally would stay away from anything that's backed. I wouldn't mess with it right now. But anyway, so silver is the pin that will prick the entire monetary system bubble. And let me explain my thoughts on this. This is inspired by John. So John, if you catch replay on this, your video put this thought into my mind. But right now the silver squeeze is underway. It won't work because we're working on almost 46 years almost 46 years of the COMEX futures having completely disrupted the entire paper game. So the paper system is too strong to unravel. Even though there might not be physical in the vaults of the COMEX, it doesn't matter because the paper runs the game. So they can continue to change the rules of the game as we go along. But what will break the silver back, what will break the back of the silver rigging game, will be a geopolitical event. And so, as was mentioned earlier, which is where the thought came from, Strain of 12, how you doing, Matthew Trax? Appreciate you guys tuning in. Destination, good time. Appreciate you guys for jumping on board. Just, sharing some thoughts. Was hoping to get a chance to connect with somebody here. But what will break the silver back and will then send gold and silver in particular to numbers that we've never even thought was possible will be the first time a cyber attack occurs first, or a missile hits the ground, or boots are deployed in the ground. Because now, for the first time that I'm aware of in my lifetime, the U.S. has a chance, will probably be forced to respond in one way or another, whether it be with China or with Russia, but they can't do both at the same time. So with Russia and the Ukraine, a geopolitical event will definitely send precious metals, gold and silver, through the roof, because at that point, I think globally, the dollar system will probably come to an end, because the greatest attack vehicle that Russia or China can use could be in coming out announcing some type of monetary system change, or them themselves announcing the new rules for the next game that the world is going to be forced to play, and it will not, be included with, the Federal Reserve note. A major sell-off of all dollar-denominated debts, including Federal Reserve notes, treasuries, bonds, you name it, and that will then force the Federal Reserve to respond. They're going to have to try to buy all that stuff up on the emergency side of things, and of course, people are going to be dumping all that stuff to buy what? Governments will be buying metals. The people will be buying digital assets. So I see the Federal Reserve System imploding on itself in response to whatever the geopolitical event that occurs. And it more than likely will probably be some type of cyber false flag or cyber attack, because I don't see them wanting to go, military conflict, just because military conflict is not something you can just dial back. Military conflicts go on for years and years and years. And unfortunately, given what's at stake, it won't just be a normal, guns and knife type fight. They're gonna have to go somewhere where the world won't be able to recover from that this decade. You know what I'm talking about. Cyber for sure. Yeah, RTD, man. So of course Biden last week signed some type of executive order talking about cybersecurity due to, like, right now I heard something about, the Pentagon, half the Pentagon or something like that, internet system or something like that was taken over or captured or something. I didn't get the details of it, but it's very alarming, which led to the need for an executive order for cybersecurity. And of course, given the fact that this recovery is false, they're going to try to pump that narrative until they can't. And then when they can't, or they choose not to let it go up anymore, as far as the financial markets, they'll have an excuse saying that we saw, Russia and China tampering with our, internet service and yada yada yada, and the other reason why it went down, and all gloves are off then. But to the video I did earlier about people not being aware of the times, we are clearly in a monetary reset. Klaus Schwab even mentioned it, but yet we're also entering into an entirely new, fourth industrial revolution type of atmosphere where, every aspect of our lives is being changed intentionally. And, on another note, of course, COVID is the catalyst to do it, but it's all because of the credit market and the lack thereof moving forward. So change is needed. And to have the same mindset as you had prior to March 2020 last year will do you harm, because you're thinking that we're going to go back to normal when we more than likely not. Not saying you individually, because if more than likely people who are part of the community are aware and awake. It's just the people who are not. But yet there's no going back. It's only moving forward. Moving forward, your best offense and defense is to remove yourself from the digital and paper sphere, as far as the old archaic system, which is the one that they're going to bring down to build back better in a more centrally controlled way, i.e. a publicly visible ledger where everything will be visible and it'll be programmable, so that if they don't like what you're spending your currency on, they can shut you off at any minute. And, isn't that a great plan by those guys? New reality for sure. Yeah, and that's the thing, foreseeing all this is one of the things where time is of the essence. And so doing whatever you can to enjoy the moment, as well as try to hedge yourself against this alternative reality they're creating, is your way of playing defense as well as offense. So, yeah, man, this is just what's happening out here. It's interesting times we're living in, but, as I was getting into earlier, thank be to God that, this is nothing new to those that are believers typically, because we all knew that, in order to get to that one world status, there's going to have to be some signs. And so clearly, I would assume that the signs we're all seeing now plays into that. So RD says, with all this going on and all these global elites taking control over everything, who's on your team? Who has your back? And it says anyone. That's a great question. Great questions, man. And so that's where I think the primary team, and this is just me, and I'm going to make more of an emphasis to share the spiritual essence of who I am and what I would like to be known as a believer in Christ. But ultimately, it's all about if you got to be on Team Jesus, man, because the Bible told us about how the end will come about. Now, as far as in the natural realm, of course, you have your other people who are consciously aware, such as yourself. So, through RTD is a small community, a digital community, and I would love to be able to connect physically with everybody and help and strategize and build a community in real life. But yet that hasn't been something that's possible yet. But you do have a team, man. Team Jesus is where it starts, and then from there, the Lord will lead you. And then think about this for my believers. We have the greatest source of information on the planet. For those that are believers, it's called the Holy Spirit. So, for those that are believers, we have a deposit inside of us called the Holy Spirit. So that Spirit itself is the guide, is the comforter, is the helper, you name it. It's an advocate for us before the Father. So trying to think about all this through that perspective gives me a little bit of a little pep in my step, because I'm not alone. And so for those that may not believe in it, I would encourage you to be more open-minded about things that before now you may not really cared about. But I'd imagine, given the circumstances we're all facing, now would probably be a better time than ever to invest in your spiritual account as well. Jim from Jessup's, greetings from Oxford. How you doing, my man? How you doing? Appreciate you for hanging out, man. I'm just doing a little rant. I was trying to connect, do a little interview, a little discussion, because I think that this week has a chance of being very interesting, as people realize that the silver squeeze will not work. And so, but it does buy time, and hopefully gets more people to plug into the system. And figure out where they should be putting their energy at right now. So anyway, that's all. I'm done ranting, man. I gotta save some rant for this afternoon rather. So I want to open invitation to everybody who's tuned in. 6:30 RTD live talk. Call in, let your voice be heard. I'm curious to hear. I'd love to hear your stories, man. That's what it's for. So it's no talk show unless you have somebody to talk to. So 6:30, which is two and a half hours. Dial in and let's connect. But anyway, be blessed, be safe. And I'm gonna try to do these more often as the weather changes, and share my thoughts. And I'm looking for topics to rant on because I got a gang of thoughts and just need a way to share it with the world. So as I'm sure you guys do as well. So that's why you give me a call. Anyway, that's all she wrote. Peace.